Welcome back to the channel, and I hope you guys are enjoying all the recent content on the FD. In this episode, we're going to be upgrading and installing pretty much the entire cooling system, and I'm very excited because this is the final piece before we start up the car for the first time. So let's go and have a look at what we're going to be installing. So this is the HKS V-MOUNT intercooler kit. I'll be honest, it wasn't my first choice. I actually wanted to get the G-Ready kit, but that's been on back order for the past 6 months and no one can give me an ETA. I got this kit from Japan in just 3 days. It is a bit more expensive and it doesn't come with a radiator. But I actually think that's a benefit, and I'll tell you why. The reason is I have had bad experiences with alloy radiators in the past, and if I had an issue with the G-Ready radiator, who knows, I could be off the road for another 6 months. With the HKS kit, if I have an issue with the radiator, I'll just bolt on a stock one and I'll be back on the road. The other reason why I like the HKS intercooler is because it sits symmetrically between the two rails. I do actually quite like how the G-Ready is a lot more horizontal and compact, but it does sit on the right side of the engine bay to allow for the intake to sit here. And another reason why I like the HKS intercooler is because the core size is bigger than the G-Ready, and that can only have a performance benefit. And just a few more parts. So I have the 71-degree billion thermostat, got that from Matey. And look at this. This is the Billet Alloy AST delete from Raceonly. What a beautiful work of art. I've already taken this out, by the way, and I've already put it on the engine. It looks amazing. And this is the TrueFlow water pump from Sparesbox. This is actually from MTW Japan, so it is good quality. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get my hands on the stock one. Okay, so let's unbox the V-mount. Wow, this kit is so nice. Everything is just so well handcrafted, and you know, this is the hard part for the radiator. It's all TIG welded. It's a beautiful kit. So you've got the piping, so the radiator pipe and also the intercooler piping. Got the radiator shroud, hoses there. You got the radiator bracket, you got the battery bracket, and this beautiful intercooler. I'm gonna open it up and show you guys. It is so nice. Look at it, wow. I could look at this all day. Okay, so the first order of business is getting the new water pump on and also the Raceonly AST delete with the new thermostat, and then we can get started on the V-mount. Sorry about that, you guys missed the most important bit. My GoPro ran out of batteries. Look at that. I love me a bit of billety goodness. Just stands out in the engine bay. I love it. So it's time for the main event. We're going to put this V-mount into the car. So the V-mount actually comes with these Japanese instructions. I'm sure they're pretty good, but they're Japanese. And I found this on Banzai Racing. I think someone's gone ahead and just translated everything over. So this is going to be much easier than looking at pictures and getting someone to translate for me. Anyways, this isn't going to be a full install, obviously, because most of the parts are already off the car. But the most important bits, I think you guys will be able to see. So come along with me and let's put this together. Okay, so remove factory parts, referring to manual. This section on the bumper, yep, that's gone. Vent gas from air conditioner, so I actually got someone to come and do that. Yep. Remove the front undercover and drain coolant, done that. Remove the front bumper face and air guide. Remove the battery and tray. Okay, remove the fresh air duct. blah blah blah. Air separator tank and remove the intercooler core. Done. On a roll, boys. Remove the power steering pipe and return hose from the position indicated by arrows in diagram 1 to 3. So next, if you haven't already, you're going to unbolt the relay box. You're going to remove this fuse box and also that bracket. Okay, done that. Remove the radiator hose, or done that. Remove the radiator, done that. Yep, done that. So the next step is to remove the condenser, the dryer, and these lines. And this is your reminder that you need to make sure your system's degassed in some way. And a good way to check to see if there's gas in your system is to look under your ABS unit. You've got high pressure and low pressure lines here. Take the cap off and just put a screwdriver on the valve, push down on it, and you might hear a little hiss, and that's just the residue gas left in the system coming out. So the next step is only for the FDs built after 1998, and you're going to remove the horns and the brackets. So the next steps involve modifying the electric fan wiring and also the fuse box wiring. Both of them need to be extended. Now, I don't want to touch the wiring as much as possible. So for the electric fan, I'm actually going to buy the G-Ready V-MOUNT electric fan wiring extension. It extends by 950 millimeters, and the HKS only needs 800 millimeters. So it's going to be a little bit longer, but that's okay. So with the modification of the fuse box wiring, now I think the reason why they want you to do that is so that this battery terminal can sit on top of the battery, but I don't see there being a problem with just moving this fuse box aside underneath the pipe and also running a battery cable to the battery. And the reason is because I don't want to touch the stock wiring, but also I'm not planning to keep the battery here. I actually want to relocate it to the trunk eventually. So I think that works well. This way I won't have to modify the wiring, and also I can just move on to the next steps. So now we're going to start installing parts on the car. So just looking at the instructions, we are now installing the power steering hose, and just based on the diagram, it looks like what they're doing is actually deleting the cooling element of this hose. So that's from the back of the reservoir. This is on the driver's side of the power steering rack. And what they're doing is essentially just replacing this line with a rubber hose to a little junction and then back to the rack. Okay, this is my second time doing this because this is actually the line from the reservoir. I just thought it's a bit neater rather than using the one on this side. And connect them both together. Next, we're on to installing a couple of these brackets for the radiator and the intercooler, and I just want to take a minute to admire the quality of these parts. Everything's either CNC'd or handcrafted, and you look at the welding on the radiator tube, it's not bad at all. Really nice piece of kit from HKS. So yeah, I'm going to get onto that now. It's pretty much just all Lego, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Alrighty, so it is almost midnight and we're just getting started. The Monaco qualifying is on, another boring street circuit, but qualifying there's pretty cool. So I did actually spend about an hour before getting these brackets together, a whole hour on brackets, and it was so confusing. The reason is because this is an English translated version and the instructions are somewhat confusing, and I don't think the Japanese version is much better, although I can't read Japanese. The biggest problem, however, is actually the part numbers on the English translated version. I think someone along the way has accidentally mixed up these part numbers because it just repeats itself. But make sure you double check with the Japanese manual. The original manual is correct. So that's how I managed to get these brackets together. And I have mop fitted it a few times in the car and I've taken it back off so we can do a video on it. So if you're using the HKS kit, I'm going to take a few photos and hopefully it heads you in the right direction. So got 3 brackets at the front. These allow the fan to bolt onto the underside of the radiator, and you got 2 clamp style brackets at the back. I've got the radiator in the orientation where it would sit in the car, and what I'm going to do is we're going to install the front brackets first. So there are 3 brackets here, and then we're going to flip the radiator around and we're going to install the 2 clamp style ones at the back. So just remember, the fans in the factory position sit on top here, but they've been relocated to the underside to suit the V-mount. So hopefully this makes a bit of sense. Okay, so we're going to be installing the brackets in order from the driver's side to the passenger side. So remember, this is the front of the radiator now. The first bracket we're going to be installing looks like that. Okay, so just hand tight for now. The next bracket is going into the middle hole. That's what it looks like. And the last bracket on the front of the radiator is going on the driver's side. That's what it looks like. There's that hole in the top. That's it. So now we're at the back of the radiator. You can tell these are the 2 rubber bushes which go into the brackets we mounted earlier. And these are the 2 clamp style brackets we're going to be installing. They're identical. And what I've actually done with these ones, I've actually had to shave off 1 millimeter on each side, just with a flap disc, because they didn't fit inside the PWR, these little brackets there. If you have the stock radiator, it shouldn't be a problem. So I'll start off with the passenger side this time. So now the brackets are all installed, I've flipped the radiator around and we're going to try to install the fan onto the radiator for the last time. Right, so the fan is now secure onto the radiator. Once again, these two brackets on the back are just clamps. They hold the radiator down. But what secures the radiator are actually these brackets on the front. I had no issues with these two brackets. They went on fine. But this one I had some trouble clearing this outlet. So what I've done, I actually found a spacer from my toolbox. I bolted it down to this bracket, and then I'm just using this as a clamp. So it's really secure. I'm not worried about it at all. So yeah, it's getting pretty late, but I'm going to chuck it in the car and then we will continue another day. So just picking it up where I left it last night, this is the line from the AST delete down to the radiator. So the next part of this install is the AC system, and this was probably the most intimidating part, but they actually have very clear instructions, and the pipework they give you is all made to fit perfectly. The only thing you need to modify is the factory line from the dryer, and apparently it's just a little bend. So make sure you follow these instructions, and also the manual. The Japanese manual has much clearer photos, so make sure you use that. I'm going to throw you guys into a time lapse because this might take a while, but let's see how we go. Alrighty, so the condenser's installed, and now we're going to be installing one of the most crucial parts to this kit, which is this beautiful piece of alloy. The way this works is it sits on top of the condenser and the radiator, and it allows for much better ducting of air, cold air, to a larger V-mounted intercooler without sacrificing airflow to the radiator. So this is definitely going to help with the cooling. The way it's mounted is it actually uses the stock radiator mounts, so I'm going to have to grab those off. Bolts onto these two holes, which go into the fan brackets. To take this mount off, we're going to have to unbolt it from the bracket, and I'm going to be using a 90mm deep socket. Just make sure when you are turning it from the metal bit and not the rubber bit. I'm using just an extension. So that's the rubber mount, and we're going to get the other one from the other side. So I've just gone ahead and drilled an additional 2 holes, one on each side of this radiator bracket. And I suspect the reason why is because the PWR radiator is actually a little bit taller. So that's why the air guide won't line up with these stock holes. No biggie, just 2 small holes. So shiny. I like it. Alright, so now we're on to finishing off the AC lines, and we're going to be mounting the receiver dryer right here. Alrighty, so there are the AC lines installed, and I don't have much advice on this part apart from take your time. The hardest bit was actually modifying the factory line to suit from this point to the top of the receiver dryer. The way I did this was actually I mounted this line from the condenser to the top of the receiver dryer first, and then the receiver dryer into the bracket. Then I actually mocked up this line and it was really off. So you got to really take your time to massage the line to make sure you don't put any cracks in this thin alloy, and also to make sure that head doesn't touch the side of the rail. Apart from that, just spend the extra time just making sure none of the lines are touching the chassis. And yeah, everything looks OEM, which is good. And I guess now we're on to modifying these hoses. So this kit reuses the factory hoses, and you cut it up and use the hard line supplied with the kit. I actually went ahead and bought myself a brand new lower hose. This one's actually not too old either, and yeah, this should be pretty straightforward. Alrighty, so this is hose A, B, C, and D, and these go on the ends of these hard tubes between the radiator and the engine. Alright, so it's getting kind of late, but both these hoses are in, and I am loving how this engine bay is turning out. It is something that I've always wanted to do, you know, that billety silver metallic kind of look. Not exactly the chrome look, but this is what I had in mind. And I just think the piping, you know, the AST delete, the turbo, the intercooler, it is all coming together. And I'm loving how this AST delete looks. So nice. I love that billety goodness. However, I don't like the way this lower radiator hose runs between the mount and also the rail. I just feel like there's potential for that to rub on stuff. There isn't much lateral movement in the hose at the moment, and it's not really rubbing on anything, but I don't really want to take that risk. So I'm going to put some of this tubing around it, make it nice and cushioned. But that's it. That's the whole cooling system done. And I'm going to call it a night, but tomorrow we're going to move on to mounting the V-mount intercooler. And that's it, boys. It's pretty much done. I can't wait to fire this up. And, you know, I am taking it slowly. I want to enjoy this process. But at the same time, I just want to hear it. Alrighty, so hopefully this is going to be the last night of this V-mount install. And we are really close. I'll quickly show you guys what I've done since last night. I've added some rubber padding on the hard lines, and just there too. I've also added some padding around these AC lines. So yeah, it's really coming together. And tonight is the final part of this install. I'm going to be installing the V-mount intercooler and also the battery tray and the battery, and just the piping, and that should be it. That's it for the V-mount. So hopefully it doesn't take too long, and yeah, it looks pretty bolt on. We'll see. Alrighty, so it looks like we've run into our first little problem with this kit. When I tried to install the intercooler, it was hitting this hard line, and this hard line needs to go a bit lower, and the condenser is right underneath and it won't go any lower. So I've had a look at this other side, and the condenser is actually sitting a little bit lower on this side than it is this side. Now, there's nothing in the instructions to suggest this. I know it's a translation, but at the same time, I think it's an important instruction. This side of the intercooler, so the passenger side, the condenser is sitting on top of the intercooler bracket. So I've got that side right. On this side, the driver's side, these two mounting tabs are meant to be sitting underneath the intercooler bracket. So that's the first confusing part. I'm not sure why it isn't included, but I've actually taken a ruler out and measured both sides, and I think that is the intention for the kit. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll show you guys what I mean once we've got this air guide out. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. Hose off, air guide off. And what I'm about to show you, I hope makes sense, because this is a bit of a headache. You can't really tell, but this side of the condenser is sitting a couple mil higher than this side. And that's enough apparently for the intercooler to hit. These 4 bolts and the 2 brackets, those 2 brackets for the condenser are meant to sit underneath this intercooler bracket. Yet on the passenger side, it sits on top, and all the holes for the AC lines line up. So strange. I didn't realize this. Hopefully if you're installing the HKS kit, you watch this video because it can be a little bit of a headache. Alright, I am so thankful that wasn't too bad. I've loosened off the condenser, and I haven't done it yet. I'm going to quickly show you guys while I'm doing it because it's very easy. So 6 bolts, 4 on this side, 2 on this side, and the condenser's loose. I've got to bring this condenser bracket underneath this intercooler bracket, or this HKS intercooler bracket. So all I'm going to do is push it forwards, just make sure all the AC lines are okay. Push it forwards and then wrap it underneath. Boom, done. And that's it. Anyways, hopefully this solves our problem. Damn, that is immaculate. It's beautiful. It's even got that HKS logo there. So pretty. Anyways, that was all it was. So I dropped the condenser below the bracket and everything just bolted straight up. Got plenty of room in that hard pipe, so I'm just going to put that hard line back there. And yeah, I guess we're back to where we started tonight. Let's get into it and finish this up. Alright, so if you saw the end of that time lapse, you would have seen everything mock fitted in the engine bay, and wow, it just looks amazing. I've taken it out again, just left it there because the next part involves sorting out this wiring and the relay, and also installation of this battery tray. I just didn't want to damage the intercooler, and I don't want to bend the fin, so I've just got it sitting there while we work on all this wiring. The next part should be pretty straightforward. It is a bunch of brackets going on here to organize these connectors and relays, and also bolting this tray down. I've just got it sitting in there right now, and I actually had to loosen this clamp off and just push down on this tube, and I've got a lot more clearance. It's not going to hit the tray. Alright, so I'm going to install the tray, and the tray actually sits on this pretty heavy duty collar just over that bolt hole. I'm going to set it down. So now we're going to install the harness brackets. Where do these go? And this one is the second harness bracket, and this is the bracket where the connectors and also the diagnosis connector mounts to. Oh. So there's a grounding point just here on the corner of the bracket, and we're going to ground this battery cable. And the last thing we're going to be installing is this Full River HC28 battery. And I actually downgraded to this battery, you can call it a downgrade, about 6 months ago, so that I could fit the catch can in the spot of a full-size battery. And just so it fits exactly in the battery tray. So this has worked out perfectly. Just perfect for it. And once everything's back together, I'm going to make a cable from the positive terminal to the positive side of the battery. And to secure the battery, the kit comes with this battery tie down. It's a piece of metal. And it goes there, and I need to find the stock rods to clamp the battery down. In the meantime, we're going to leave it as is, and now we can get back to putting everything back together. Would you look at that? This is just perfect for my car. I reckon HKS had me in mind when they built this kit. Just, you know, the battery just fits perfectly in the tray. The turbo's in a good position for this piping. I don't think I need to do any welding. Apart from making a little intake and with a pod which sits here, I think that's all I need to do. For now, I think that turbo is going to be in the right spot. All I'll just have to do is just clock the compressor housing like 20 degrees. And then I can probably just reuse my 90-degree reducer hose here. Or I can use this from the kit. This is the HKS pipe for the TO4Z turbo, but I'll need to change out this reducer. It's a bit too small. Yeah, in the meantime, I'm just going to clock the housing and then I'm going to put the 90-degree hose back in. And that's all the piping done. Wow, that'll do me. That's perfect. The fitment is just built for this kit. That's just amazing. And wow, that's just, it's mind blowing. I haven't had to do any fabrication on this whole kit. The only thing which is triggering me is this black hose. So next time I'm down at Auto One, I'm definitely going to get a reducer to suit so I can use this nice HKS hose on the top. But you know, this car's ready to go. This is just, it's done. And I am going to sort out an intake for this, and this is my old intake. This is the first video I made, really, and you know, the welding is okay, but I want to make the intake sit around there. I want to have my pod, I'll just quickly grab the pod. I want the pod to be sitting like this, or like this, maybe like that. You guys let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments. But this battery is going to be temporary. I think I will actually relocate this somewhere in the car when we do the fuel setup. So yeah, I'm so stoked. That's perfect. All right, so I actually finished the install last night, and yeah, I'll run you guys through what I did. I bent the terminal here, and I'm running a 2-gauge cable just from this terminal to the positive side of the battery. I know it's black heat shrink, but red looks like an eyesore in this engine bay. So I will probably boot these as well, just to make myself feel a bit better. Yeah, so with the electric fan wiring, I put it in some conduit and it's all cable tied and secure and completely out of the way of the airflow. So yeah, maximum airflow to this beautiful V-mount. So yeah, that's the HKS V-mount installed, and honestly, it was pretty fiddly. And I'm going to give you guys my feedback on this kit and my first impressions. So off the top of my head, I think it's a beautiful and a really good piece of kit. The quality is just amazing, and it is very Japanese. And what I mean by that is that the kit has been engineered in a way where it's very precise, it's very accurate. They've used all the available engine bay space, and that makes it, you know, a bit difficult and fiddly to install. One thing I don't like about the kit, they've not told you to mount the relay box anywhere. They've just told you to zip tie it out of the way. So I think you might have seen earlier, that's the relay box, and this foot is kind of in the way of airflow. I'm not really sure what HKS were thinking when they just said zip tie it out of the way. It's not very Japanese. What they could have done was made a little bracket to sit the relay box there, but perhaps it's not as accessible for the relays. Not that they really need to be anyway. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this HKS V-mount install. Let me know what you think. Do you like the HKS one? Do you like the G-Ready one? And don't forget to leave a comment, leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help me. So I'm really excited because in the next few days, this is going to get fired up, and that's going to be the next video. I hope you guys are excited as much as I am, and I'll see you then.